And today I've got a lovely subject matter to talk about. I've been asked to talk about suicide and what happens when people reach the other side. One of the reasons I've been asked to talk about this is, as a clairvoyant medium, I have met people through clients coming to see me who have exactly done that. They have committed suicide, and then what the families want to know, or friends want to know, is, are they okay? Are they at peace now? And they're sort of a bit lost, shall we say. So I'm just going to describe the process that I've encountered through my work. I've no idea if this is a general happening. I can only describe what comes to me when I'm working with various clients. So, just have to start with that. I really love singing bowls, and this one's for the crown chakra, and I just find that it definitely clears the air, and it's a really nice feeling. A long time ago, my mother was away on a holiday on a cruise ship, and she was in the Caribbean, and the table she was on, she was with a friend, and there were 4 other ladies on this table, and they were all chatting away about various things, and the subject came up of mediums or life after death. And one of the ladies on that was talking that her mother and grandmother had both been seers, so they could sort of predict future events, and they were very good at it. They predicted all sorts of things. Literally 2 days later they happened. And my mother mentioned that I did medium work, and had people on the phone. I talked to people on the phone, they asked me things, and I relay backwards and forwards different bits of information and ask more questions, and then we get to the whole of the story. And this lady said, oh, I think your daughter will be able to help us. And my mum said, well, what with? And she said, oh, I'm not going to say, I'm just going to say I think she can help her. Would you mind asking her tonight? Anyway, my mum got in touch with me by phone, and we chatted away, and I said, well, what's it concerning? She said, I have no idea. This lady was insistent that you could help them out, but she didn't say what about. I said, okay, then I said, if I find anything, I'll email it to you, and you just pass the email on. And this person, for me to tune in on a meditation, I just thought of my mother talking at a table with 4 other people, and they wanted to know something about somebody. And in this meditation, I see a man, a young man, maybe in his early 20s, wearing a white shirt, blue jeans, very smartly dressed, looked like he was going out for the night. And he's standing opposite me across a road, and he's standing with all those shops behind him, and he's looking around, trying to, it looks like I was going to cross the road, and then off he runs, starts running down the road. And the next vision I see, everything's blue, sort of the colour of this dress I've got on. It was blue. There was nothing I could recognise from this colour. I was looking up and down and everywhere, and it was just blue. And then as I raise my eyes up, as if literally I am down somewhere looking up, I notice some little pinprick colour coming down. When it gets really close, I realise they're car headlights, and they come into the water beside me. And the car floats past me with a young lad sitting inside. Excuse me. This image changes completely. I'm drawn to look further down in the blue, and I see this swirling mist start forming a shape. I could see it was forming into a boat, and then an arm comes up, and another one, and another one, and I thought, oh, it must be a fishing boat. Now they have these bits of metal that's come off the side. And then there was even more. There was a great big wheelie thing on the back, and there was all this netting. And I thought, no, it's a fishing boat. It's a big fishing trawler, like these ocean-going trawlers that they have. My imagery brought me back, so I was now in line with the car, but I could still see the fishing trawler. Out from the fishing trawler came some people and they swam up in, strangely enough, in diving suits with flippers and no lungs, but with the fish black outfit on, and they came swimming up. They got the young lad out of the car and took him to the fishing boat, and that was the fishing gone. So I wrote back and I told my mum exactly what I'd seen. I said, I hope this is helpful, but I feel it must be. It's the story of a young man who's committed suicide, and this is what's happened. And the following day my mum came back and she said they wanted to say thank you very much indeed. And I said, oh, that's brilliant. What was the outcome? And the outcome was that their son had died. He had committed suicide, driven his car into the sea. The car was found, but his body took a long time to be found. And the three people coming out the fishing boat is that they lived in a fishing village, and they were all part of a fishing family. And not long before he committed his suicide, 3 uncles were killed at sea on a fishing trip, bringing their haul back. So they were rested in peace then, because they knew that he was with his uncles down in the sea. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? It was just unbelievable. And to think that I could have given them the information that they truly wanted, and I knew nothing about it at all. I didn't even know their names. I'm not sure I can remember their names now, but the whole point for me was it gave them closure and peace. It was just lovely. So there was that one. That was all the way from the Caribbean on a cruise, and I was still in England. Then I met a man on the other side. He came for some help. I didn't recognise this man at all. I didn't know who he was, but he asked me for help, and I did say, I'm sorry, but I don't even recognise you. I just need to be able to attach you to your help. I need some sort of story to go with it, so I can sort of, I know who I'm trying to call in. And it turned out to be George Michael, the singer. He showed me what he looked like when he was in Wham, this fantastic bit of hair and what have you. And then he showed me a bit of the story of this person that he wanted to connect with. And the story for him, which was extremely sad, was he loved this man who died of AIDS. He loved him. But because of pressures upon him, because he was a superstar singer, through the record company and various other people, to be associated with anyone dying of AIDS, he abandoned him basically and left him to die. He was going to die, but instead of standing beside him and saying, I'm here for you. Who cares about social media? Wasn't what it is today, but who cares about newspapers printing anything? So he left him, and it was his biggest regret, which followed him all the way up to his own death. He never loved anyone else as much as he loved him, and he was sad throughout his entire life that he left somebody he really loved and cared for, but left somebody dying in such a terrible circumstance at a time when in the UK lots of people were terrified you could catch AIDS by looking at someone. Absolutely stupidly ridiculous, but the media built it up to make it sound like you could catch AIDS very easily. And his friend died, and he had gone. Once he died, he thought he'd be able to contact him and see him, and he'd seen him, but he couldn't get close to him because his friend was still in a terrible place, not being able to get over the fact that the person he loved had abandoned him and left him. So my job was to reconnect. If it's true that they really loved each other and there was this power of love, then I can reconnect that person in the afterlife. And that's what I did. I reconnected Michael with him so they could be together in the afterlife. And that was another very powerful statement which got me thinking, what actually happens when you die and you're not in the right place when you die? What does happen? I have worked for businesses that have had a lot of bad luck in their getting clients to come in, or gyms where they know there's been historic disturbances, usually murders and killings, like in war, going back hundreds of years, where wars have taken place, and on the place they actually are, or in the grounds, there's been a lot of violence. It seeps into the now, and what seeps into the now is, once everyone was loyal, they were taken, they were trapped, they were not needed anymore, surplus to requirements, they were murdered because they didn't fit the bill. Lots of soldiers and armies have been wiped off because a king or a somebody has said, nah, we don't want them. I want to put my men in place. I want my crew in. We'll kill them. And they kill them. Absolutely shocking, because no one should ever be able to take someone's life. In the past, you could take someone's life and there was no karma. But actually, that saying's always been wrong, because the body is karma. Your body holds your deeds, every single one of them, and they have to be healed this time round in your lifetime. And you certainly do not want to go, there are two places you can go to, but you certainly do not want to go into no man's land, because literally you are in no man's land. There's nothing. It's like looking at a World War I battlefield, and that is it. All that grimness, you'll be stuck in that. Trust me, you don't want to go there. You've got two other options. You can raise your vibration and leave, at least knowing that you can have all of your timelines shown to you, and you can work through them and say, oh yeah, that was awful, I'm so sorry, I should never have done that, and oh my God, how I have impacted other people's lives by my actions, my words, my doings. That can be addressed. It's nothing to do with me whatsoever, and it's nothing to do with me whether it does get addressed. But if you die in unfortunate circumstances, you're murdered, you leave here in a very bad place, because you can't right yourself from it, with all the pressures that are around, and social media that's around, and everything that's not geared for helping you, just making matters worse. Then you go into no man's land. I met a lady at a fair, and she came for some Reiki healing, which she received. She received her Reiki healing, but then when she sat in front of me, and I was just pointing out there was a couple of places where I sort of felt something in her energy, but I couldn't say what it felt like. Normally I can vision it or whatever, but on this occasion I couldn't say what it felt like. And the lady was sitting there and just generally chatting, and then suddenly I said, I've got a young man here. I said, and he wants to talk to you about something. He just wants you to know that when he passed, he didn't know he was going to pass. And this occasion, this boy, this young lad, was round friends. They were all just chatting and laughing and having a drink, and there was nothing untoward in any of it, and he never felt at any point his life was in danger. They all got mucking about, they were having a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh. Something happened on the balcony of this, it was a block of flats, something happened on the balcony, and he went over. He still didn't think, even when he was falling to his death, which was very, very fast indeed, anything was wrong. What I received from that afterwards was I had a terrible pain here, a massive trauma here, like my head had been broken off, literally. And the lady said, yes, his neck was broken. I said, well, even that, he felt it was like he'd walked to a door, put his hand on it, opened it, and he said that was really the falling off the balcony. stepped through it when his body hit the floor and he broke his neck. And then he found himself somewhere he didn't recognise. When he turned round, as if, because he didn't realise he was dead then, to come back and say, no, I don't, so where am I? This is, where am I? What am I doing here? I was upstairs a minute chatting to all my friends. What's happening now? And turned round. He then saw the scene unfold in front of him and saw himself and everything that was going on. And he realised he was dead. But he couldn't come back from it because he was dead. But he could watch the scenery and everything unfold, but he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't talk to anyone, touch anyone, because now he wasn't in his body as such, he was in his electronic blueprint, which is everything your body's gone through. So you look all right, and you can be picked up by people, and you'll have an imagery of it, but you have no substance, you've got none of this. This is what I call substance, you've got none of this, it doesn't happen. But he kept stressing that at no time was there anything going on there was nothing wrong with what was going on, everything was fine, and he felt all right. And this was important for him to stress to this lady for passing on to the rest of the family. And for him, he then couldn't go any further, he couldn't cross from there for healing and to wait until family members or whoever would come and see him, and then he could then be with other people. So he was a bit trapped, and he was trapped because once he'd opened one door and stepped into the afterlife, he turned around and wanted to come back, so he thought, oh, I shouldn't be here, what's going on? And that blip of a moment stopped him going on, so he had to come back. Well, he wanted to come back and he couldn't. So he came to see me, and I connected him up with who he needed to be with so he could go on for healing and help. And then once he's over into that realm where he is getting help, he can then come back and try and make people feel him. Usually you feel warm. Sometimes you feel cold. People go, oh, I feel cold. There's, you know, the room's got really cold. But if it's someone who really loves you and they really want to be with you, they actually have warmth, and you might feel warm, you might feel something warm touch your hand. Warm here. It's an interesting, well, it's a very interesting thing when you die, and who comes back and how it comes back. But spirits in general, yes, they come back and they're cold because they're not on the same frequency of us. So they're at different levels. So that was that young man. And then I was, I'm just trying to think. I was at a psychic course where you get a certificate, so you've passed your first stage of being a psychic. At the moment, people like certificates, and if you haven't got a certificate, then apparently you're not a psychic, or you're not in anything, but people do like a certificate. So I thought, well, I'll go along and get a certificate so that I'm sort of in training as a psychic. Give it a whirl. Anyway, we got there. And the person doing it kept saying, Carol, you're a healer. I said, I am a healer, you're right, I am. I'm very good at it. I said, but when I'm doing healing, quite often, I give psychic messages out. Some are for what happened, and we can go back thousands of years. I can take you back to Egypt. All sorts of people come and see me and give me their 10 pennies worth because they feel it's relevant. Some of it's extremely relevant and they have to go, and so then I have to call in other people to remove these people. Not because they've done anything bad, but we don't want them in this lifetime. All the body since that person died has cleared that karma, and now they need to go, and they can't go because again they're stuck, so they need to go, and that's my job. I can move them on. But this lady was there, and she gave, everyone had to exchange a piece of jewellery or key. I had car keys on me, I don't wear any jewellery, but I had her ring, and it was really peculiar. I put it in my hand, and in the centre bit where the finger would go, it was all black, and around the outside it was like massive light coming out. It was beautiful. But in the centre it wasn't happy. Again, I meditate, I tuned in, and instantly this man came up, really, I can do this, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go in there, and he was full on, absolutely full on. I was like, whoa. And he went, look, what's this? And literally, like I've just said, I saw World War One battlefield. There were shards of metal. There was, it's metal, it rolls up. Oh, it's got sharp bits all over it. Barbed wire. There was barbed wire everywhere. I mean, you couldn't move. It was just, he was stuck in this spot. I was like, he was only young, he wasn't in the war. And I kept thinking, he's definitely not in the war, but his situation took him to this place. And I was saying to this young lady, I said, it's funny, I've got this man here, but he's talking at 100 miles an hour. And he's changing as quick as that, into this subject, back to this subject, back to that. And it's almost like, he's really like hyper. And so he had schizophrenia. Wow. And then my body changed completely. He stepped into me completely. My body completely changed. I could feel, it was as if I was standing on a vibrating plate. One of those machines where you pump down the road and get it flat. You have like a surface, and they have these big plates, and there's this machine that pump, like that. My whole body was literally like that on the inside. The outside of my body, nothing. Calm, but the inside of my body was literally alive, like moving up. I was like, oh, I said, that would make me seriously ill. I said, is that the drugs he was taking? I don't know, he never mentioned it. I said, well, he was dealing with a lot of stuff. So if this is schizophrenia, and schizophrenics feel that their bodies, and they know this body is literally like that, inside, doesn't stop. The whole thing is vibrating at such a fast rate. There's nothing on the outside, so even if they touch themselves, that would be fine. But all of the inside, from the top of the head to the feet, is vibrating like that. I thought, how on earth can you live with that? And you've got to function. And even if you told someone, he said, oh, my body feels like it's all like vibrating, all of it, really solid vibrations all going through, would they understand that? Because unless you stood on a vibrating plate, which is very unlikely to, because that would be quite damaging after a while, you wouldn't understand any of it. Frequency could do that, so maybe all of his frequencies were out of balance. Perhaps the system should not be giving you pills, because pills certainly won't stop that movement. They probably make it worse. But maybe frequencies will. Sound baths, that type of healing needs to be investigated for people who have got schizophrenia. But gently, I wouldn't say to anyone, clout a great big sound bath and say, this is for your chakras, because forget the chakras at the moment. That person needs an awful lot of help. But I would definitely say to people, start looking into sound therapy, very gentle sound therapy, or meditation techniques when you're working with people with schizophrenia, because that will help them. Not pills or anything else, because this lad wasn't helped at all. But from this young lad, so he was saying that he found himself dead. He didn't want to die, but he experimented, and the experiment worked. He died. But from this experiment, he said, I couldn't believe it. And he showed me a lot of people on the road. So it was his funeral, and he went to his funeral, and people were everywhere. They lined the streets, all the way around to where he went to school, all the way up to where he was going to be cremated or buried. He couldn't believe how many people loved him. They turned out. He could hear them talking about him, saying most nicest of things. He had no idea anyone liked him. He really didn't think he was liked. It's such a shame. Why can't we start saying to each other how much we like us? Oh, you look lovely today. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, but get it across. Don't just wait until they're ill. They'll just think you're saying it. But from birth, allow people to come out and say, my God, you're a happy little child. Oh my God, look at you. You're so full of life. And if they're not like that and they read, oh, you like books, so do I. Stop the fear. Because the fear is stopping people from thinking they're even liked. That's shocking. You're cutting off a valuable thing. Let someone know that you like them. Let everyone talk in terms of, oh, wow, did you do that today? What's that you're watching? Oh, tell me about it. Is it interesting? Even if you hated watching something on the TV or watching PlayStation or anything else, get some interest in it, at least understand what's going on. Everyone should be understood, and everyone should realise they fit in and they are valuable. Not fitting and not valuable. Who's got the right to say you're not? Anyone got that right? I don't think so. Not if it then ends up with someone honestly believing that and they kill themselves. But anyway, this young lad realised too late he was dead. And again, he couldn't go any further because he didn't want to leave. And he kept wanting to go back, and he couldn't go back because he couldn't touch anything again. He'd lost that sense of touching. His hand would just pass through everything. Even if he called someone, it didn't matter. His vibration is such a different vibration from ours that just misses each other. Such a sad scenario to get yourself into. But when we were there and we were talking, and I said, well, you can't stay here, this is grim. I went, absolutely. I said, this is grim. Grim, you can't stay here, I'm not having this. Let's see what we can do. I need to bring in some help. For the help, I bring in archangels Michael, Metatron, Archangel Gabriel, Raphael. I've worked with the 4 of them for years, and I also work with lots of artists that have died who are extremely famous. And I call everybody I know in, because they've all got a much better understanding. And the artists, at least they were us. And although they're out there and they don't usually come in for most people, that I can call them in and say, look, I've got this lad here and we need some help. We need to get him over to there and then get him help. And it was actually quite funny, I have to say. I was walking into where he needed to be. He didn't want to go. He just said, I don't know where I'm going. I said, no, I know you don't. And I don't actually know where you're going because I don't cross over this bit. I can go into this area of no man's land quite easily and it's fine for me, but I'm not going to go to the next stage. The next stage isn't my area. But if I'll take you to as far as I can go, and all these energies are opening the area up so that you can go. And you will be looked after, and somebody you know in spirit will come and help you. And that's all you need, is that click, someone helps you and you're gone. So we're wandering along and he's like, I still can't get over my funeral. He said, I honestly never believed. That rocked him, all these people, and that made him sadder, unfortunately. And suddenly he turned round. I had this man's face right in my face. What are you doing with my mate? How dare you take him? What are you doing with him? Who are you? I was like, ugh. I said, oh, I'm just helping him cross over. Have you come to help him? And that was it, they were gone. I was like, oh. Thank goodness for that. But when I was telling it to the lady, I said, the guy that came was right in my face, like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you with my mate? And I said, well, he needs to go. And there was a few more exchanges of nattering, chatting about what's happened. He needs to go. And he's like, come on, mate, we've got work to do. Come on, we've got fun. So I described what he looked like, and he died quite a bit earlier, and he died of cancer, which was a big shame. And he was his best friend, and he died of cancer. He was there to meet him and take him off on another adventure. He could not wait to get this adventure started. It's just, honestly, it is lovely. It is lovely, but it's very upsetting for me as a healer, and going and getting souls and moving them to other places. When they get cut off, it's upsetting, I have to say. But he's now at peace, having fun with his friend, and up to who knows what, but enjoying himself. So there's always, as they say, a light at the end of the tunnel, and it invariably is good. I have met some people that have had interesting lives, and some of these people maybe not so good, but they haven't come for help, and they haven't come to change what they did. But on one occasion I met a medium called Doris Stokes, and she was around a lot, I think in the 70s and 80s. I read her books in the 80s. She was a medium and went on platform all around the world, did a lot of work in Australia, would sit on platform and lots of children would come to her and she would work with children. She did a lot of energy work and saying I've got someone's child and dogs and things like that. That was her genre, which is probably why she was requested to bring this woman to me. This woman came to me and she materialised, and when I saw her I was like, oh my God, what on earth does she want? The woman was Myra Hindley, and in the 60s her and her partner, they killed a lot of children. And what she'd been brought for, she doesn't want, I'll just quickly add, she doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for her or heal her or anything. She's actually more than happy with what she did, and she feels there was nothing wrong with it. That's her words, I did nothing wrong. She has gone on to explain to me more about her life and the amount of people who actually welcomed what she did, even though maybe in the public view they would have denounced her, but behind closed doors they didn't, and they fed her. And I can sort of understand that from what we see around us with people being arrested for this, that and the other, and they have these long histories of paedophilia and all sorts of stuff, and yet for the outside public they're all smiles and happy and what have you. But she took me on a journey in a car. I'm driving down a main road, so this is the vision that came to me. I'm in a car, I'm sitting in the front seat, I can't see the driver but I'm in the front seat, I'm looking out the window. We go down a dip, we turn round, the road's quite small but there's another lane the other side of me. I see in front of me, I see a bridge, and I'm sort of staring at the bridge, and I thought, oh, that's an old disused railway line. I thought, crikey, you know, I mean there are loads of disused railway lines in the UK, and I'm just thinking, well, there's a disused railway line, it's got loads of trees in the wrong places, like on the bridge, hanging over the top there was old bits of trees, and here and there, like the density of it all. And then I noticed to my right hand side on a slight hill a graveyard with all nice neat graves, but then there was a hole where a new coffin's going to go in, but the coffin had been drawn in. The rest of it was perfect, like a proper vision where everything is in correct place, in the right colour, looking as it would have done then, but the coffin in black ink had been scribbled in and was sitting on the side of this hole. And I thought, that's a bit odd, isn't it? I wonder what that's about. Why would someone draw a coffin? And then we go down, we go underneath the bridge, we go underneath it, we come up the other side, and then I see in front of this massive building. It's got all small windows in it with a chimney, and I looked up and I thought, oh, I wonder if that's a workhouse. Maybe I'm near a workhouse somewhere. There were loads in Yorkshire and mills and all sorts of things that way, so I thought maybe I'm near a workhouse. Then the idea came to me, maybe you're near a school, maybe there's a big public school here. I thought, I didn't even know where I was, so I couldn't say that I was at a school, but these were all thoughts that kept coming to me. This could be a public school you're at. So we drove on, and I noticed there's a church that I could just see through the trees. And then next minute I'm out of the car, I'm walking up a pathway through bracken and heather, and it's like a pathway where it's all been trodden down, so it's very short grass, but it's been compacted by people walking up and down it, so public footpaths. And then at the top I see this lovely patch of green, and they highlight it, because everywhere else is all heather, loads of heather all over the place, and I thought, this patch of green disappears, the whole picture goes, and I'm just looking at this darkness. And then I can see a hand, like here, like that little hand, trying to reach up, and then I see another hand coming down like that, and they can't reach each other, but this hand's quite big, and this hand's little. And I think, oh, it's a little child's hand, and they're trying to reach up and, you know, like grab the hand. So into the centre, I stared into the centre, and then I fire in love. And I fire in, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, this colour, until it covers the hands and they're gone. And then I'm standing back with Myra and Doris Stokes. And I couldn't help it, I had to ask the question, how could the little girl become not attached to her parents? How can that happen? What had she done to become separated from her mum? And what came back was awful, really. So when all this tragedy was taking place and it hit the news, and in those days it was news on the TV and newspapers, social media on phones and things. 1960s didn't exist. Everyone listened in horror to the unfolding stories that went on with what Myra Hindley and Ian Brady carried out with children. And they couldn't remember where they'd buried their bodies of the victims and things like that. And so parents had to sort of try and get on as best they could. They couldn't bury their children because there weren't any children to bury, but they had names and they had tapes of what went on. And the saddest thing is, I was very young then myself, so I didn't really know any of this, but as time went on, they were still talking about the history of this, and it always kept coming up in any murders that went on elsewhere, even though they were in prison and what have you. But when I was being told this, I said, well, I understand that there was obviously all this media went out because they were reporting on something that had never been reported on before. It was, I would assume, phenomenal type of, news. And they said the thing was, the outpouring was a mix of hate and love, but the love wasn't for the victim, it was for the people that caused the problem to happen. So Myra Hindley and Ian Brady were honoured and loved for their cruelty and the subsequent murder of these children, and the hate from people who thought, that it's hateful, how could you do this, it's horrible. The two joined together, severed the ties from the families and their children, and in particular this little girl, which is an extremely sad case. But from this I was then taken on another journey where I found myself standing in a room here. There were two people standing here. There was a man standing here and he wore a hat, like a baseball cap, that type of thing. But it had a colour to it, and the spirit world were highlighting this hat had some importance, not to the man wearing it, but to one of his victims. Now I don't know who the man was, and I couldn't see who he was talking to, so I asked, can you show me who he's talking to, please? And they showed me, it was Ian Brady. But they were talking, and I don't know who I was, so whether I was Myra Hindley, I have no idea, but whatever was going on, something was going on down below where I was standing, but I don't know what that was because I couldn't see it, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with me. That isn't part of my job. So I was watching them talking and this hat. Then I was taken to well, at first I wasn't sure where, but I realised I was inside a railway tunnel, a disused railway tunnel, and it was all the bricking that went round, and I could see it all around me, and I was in a pile of rubbish, literally in a pile of rubbish. There was like a bit of paper across my nose, there was bits of rubbish here, there was a bit more rubbish there, there was all that mould and wet going up the tunnel, and it came round, and in front of me I could see light, daylight. I don't know how far in I was, but I wasn't that near. There was no light where I was, but the light was coming in, and as I was watching, three people materialised. Myra Hindley was wearing a denim jacket and a denim skirt with sort of a florally outfit on. The man with this hat was being highlighted again. They were all like fiddling. They were bending down and fiddling with the ground, whatever they were. I wasn't near enough to say what it was, but I was watching them, and then they walked off and they all linked arms and they walked down. I realised as I was walking away it was the railway cut, and there was an area that went up with land, like a raised bed, I suppose, to stop the tracks from moving, and then it went round a corner, and there were some small trees that I was looking at, but these would have been from the 1960s, these small trees. Unless it's all been cut down, they'd be massive now. But the guy with the hat on, the cap, he came running back and did a bit more messing about. Then he went back, and they all linked arms again, and off they went, and the vision went. And I was thinking, well, who on earth, why are they showing me this? Because he obviously, I don't know if his body was ever found. I'm saying a he, because the hat that this man was wearing, I feel would have been a school hat. Because in my day, when I was younger, the girls used to wear, well, they're not made out of straw, but they're made out of that type of thing, and they're a weaved hat that girls used to wear. They didn't often wear caps, but I have no idea who it belonged to, but I think the hat had relevance, had a connection to the railway tunnel I was in. Obviously, I don't know that, but that's what came to me, and none of my visions have ever not been true. So that's the truth of the matter. I went back and I said to Myra Hindley, have you come for forgiveness? But don't ask me why I've asked that, because I would never ask that to anyone. And she said to me, no, everything I did was right. I felt all right about it. I've done nothing wrong, and I'm supported by a lot of people. And at the time I thought, really? Who would support that? Who would have thought that murder of children was right? But unfortunately, I've been told by her again that lots and lots of people enjoy that type of thing, murdering people. That type of thing with children, it's a worldwide web. And what she did is more acceptable than I thought it was. And because of that, she did nothing wrong. And she said when people came to her in prison and tried to change her, she was not interested. Not interested at all. And when people came and asked her in prison to tell them her story, she wouldn't get into that either. She wouldn't get into telling anyone her story, because then they'd turn around and they'd vilify her, I think the word is. They'd always be nasty about what she told them, even though they wanted to hear it, wanted to get the satisfaction out of it all, and then turn around and be nasty. She said no. What happened, happened. I'm happy with that. So that's a very sad story, and even worse to think that there have been many murders, many, involving children, anyone, adults, where people on a grand scale enjoy listening to that on the news, and therefore sever the love connection to relatives, because more people feel that was a good thing to do, or they get off on it, or whatever they want to do, than those that don't and think it's horrendous. So that's where I'm going to leave today, because that has to be paid for. That has to be paid for. And karma is no longer. Karma ended in 2012, and everyone's body is paying for their body's karma. And everybody living in a body goes through the karma of that body. Can't be escaped, you can't get round it, can't get out of it. It's there, and it's for healing. If you really don't want to be healed and you're happy to stay in the dark side, then that's where you will stay. 100%, that's fine. Everyone has a choice, and that's fine. The dark side, it's a good side to be for the dark side, and if you want to go in the light side, it's a good side to be if you want to be in the light side. that's where I'm going to leave it. As the vibration of the earth changes, so will we all, regardless of where we're on, the light or the dark side. We haven't got any other choice but to go with the flow. So that's it for today. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me. I'm going to end with a list. That helps clear things away. And then this is my most favourite. It's a frog, and it's called the croaking frog. I really do like this. That's it for now. See you soon. Bye.